All right, welcome to the Sweet Talk. Today is Monday, April 5th, 2021. I am your host, Kim Mattina. And today I am so excited to have on the show Miss Shannon Moore from California. She is a high school English teacher and speech teacher. And also, she is the English chair and a study technology coach from Central California. She is also one of three people who is hosting the three C's.
Three
Three,
CCs. Yep, three caffeinated coaches.
yep, it's a new podcast. So thank you for being on, Shannon. It's a pleasure having you.
I'm so glad to be here. You have no idea. I could talk about Adobe all day long, and I've been following your show for quite a while. And so it's wonderful that we have the opportunity to chat. I've been waiting for this. So glad to be here.
Me too. It's a pleasure meeting you, and I'm so thankful that you took the time to be on my show. So I appreciate that. So now you're part of the Sweet Talk family as well.
There
So
we go. I love it. That's great.
why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and also tell us about your new podcast too?
I would love to. Thank you so much. Okay, so hi, everybody. Like Kim mentioned, I am Shannon. I live in Visalia, California, which is like right smack in the middle of California. Um, I've been teaching an educator for 10 years, so rounding out my decade this year, and really, really love teaching. Love everything about it. This year has been obviously challenging. In California, many schools are finally going back to a hybrid face to face model, but we pretty much have been virtual thus far. And I'm an ed tech geek, just like Kim, I could assume. And so, it's been fun. It's been fun figuring out. I think one benefit of the virtual learning capacity is like, figuring out what tech actually is going to prove to be the most effective. And so it's been a bit of a challenge, but it's also been a moment of kind of liberation because I've been able to break from my traditional way of approaching education this year. So as far as 3CCs, that's brand new. Super excited about it. So 3CCS is where you'll find us on Twitter. It's @_3CCS. And we're the three caffeinated coaches. So it's myself, Georgina Dean, and Becky Calling. And we talk about all things mentoring, leading, and coaching in education. And we just released last Wednesday our 7th episode. So we're brand new. Started in January. I know. I saw that we're episode 161. So we're just a little bit behind you, but just a little bit, right? And yeah, it's been great. What was that?
You started. That's all that matters.
That's what I hear. That's what everybody keeps saying. So our podcast is a little unique in the sense that, we do our traditional, podcast type episode where we discuss kind of something regarding coaching, leading, or mentoring across education. But then every other episode is Georgina Dean, and she is leading a podcast book study. So we have a community of individuals who have chosen to read How to Lead by Joe Owen with us, and they give their insight on a slow chat kind of slide deck. She synthesizes the material, and there you go. It kind of helps those individuals who are interested in maybe attending a book study but not wanting to listen or participate like heavily. They can just listen to a 30 to 45-minute kind of recap of the insights. So far we've had great reception and we've had a lot of fun.
That's a
Yeah.
great idea. That's awesome. I really love that.
Yeah.
The more people that's involved, the more ideas you get. So it's great to have you offer that to your audience too. So that's always
Yeah.
it's a different way to communicate your message, and I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, well, thank you. We're having fun, and at the end of the day, we it's all about being a joy project, and so it has been a joy project, and we hope it stays that way.
You know what? That's how my Sweet Talk show started as a passion project, and I'm still going. Like I can't believe it's been 3+ years already. So as
Crazy.
long as it's fun for you and you don't find it to be a job, then keep going at it. Once
Yeah,
it becomes like a job, then and the fun isn't there anymore, then you need to switch it up or whatnot. But yeah,
yeah,
as long as you have
that's what I hear. But
yeah.
we're enjoying it thus far. So thanks for letting me highlight that a little bit. I know we're here to talk about Spark, but I use Spark for it, so that'll be a good segue.
No, that's awesome. So yeah, so we're going to talk about Adobe Spark. And before we went live, I'm not a user of Adobe Spark, so for me, this is going to be a learning curve that I'm looking forward to hearing about. So yeah, we're going to talk about Adobe Spark and how we can use it in the classroom, and give some ideas and such on how students can use it to create as well. So why don't you take it over?
Sure. And so let me just kind of start quickly from the beginning for me. I need to kind of lay the foundation a little bit as to why I choose Adobe Spark. So I'm an English teacher. Kim mentioned that in the beginning. And, traditionally, English is reading and writing, speaking and listening. And I actually teach a class that is primarily a writing class. So I teach students how to write, high school students how to write. It's actually an advanced placement class, so I'm preparing for them for the AP test that they'll take in May. And I kind of, as I've been kind of going through the last few years, I've found myself really looking into alternative assessment because it gets a little stale when students are, I'm teaching them how to write and then they write. And then I give feedback and grade, and then we do the process all over again with a different writing domain. And I found myself dissatisfied, right? Because there's more to life. And I know that like I am preparing them for this AP test. And so the writing piece is important. But I started to think about that idea of like personalized learning quite a bit more these last few years. And I've learned and found that, not every student does an exceptional job of exemplifying their learning through just the written word. And so I went on this creativity journey, a personal creativity journey as an educator that really, my goal was to really try to find experiences that I could offer to my students that would allow them to express their learning in a way that was maybe non-traditional, so as to cater to those students. I always talk about the value of choice and voice in the classroom, but I had a really hard moment where I was like, had to look and be introspective and realize I wasn't really actually offering them enough choice, right? And we know that as soon as a student is allowed to exemplify their learning in a way that's real to them, that they're more likely to attach to that and be engaged in the lesson. And so then pandemic education hit, and we were virtual learners, and I was doing virtual teaching. And I found that, the one thing that was lacking in my classroom was creativity. And I thought to myself, you know what? Now's the time to take those risks and try something new, because nothing is going right. Nothing, I mean, you've talked to educators. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. We're going to take some risks. I'm going to try to break some things up and try some new things. And actually started to really dig into Twitter quite a bit, and started to see some really cool things happening with Adobe for Education. I ended up meeting Georgina Dean, which is one of the 3 caffeinated coaches. And if you know Georgina at all or you follow her on Twitter, she is Adobe nut. And so I started to dive in. Adobe has a really great education exchange where educators can put like lessons up and you can take courses to kind of learn. And so, I started following her, and I started following Joseph Lebrecq, and I started following Claudio Zavala, and I saw all of these cool things happening with Spark. And so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna dig in, and that's kind of where it all started. This creativity journey and really focusing on creation over consumption, which is kind of where I felt like I was before, more of the consumption side.
Can I interrupt you for a second? I
Yeah.
think it's great that you actually did it, like reflected on your teaching, because that's important to point out that you noticed that it was stale,
Yeah.
and wanted to switch it up, and that you actually knew that you needed to do something different and take a risk, so to say, and try something new. I think I give you a lot of credit, because some people, they don't want to learn something new. They want to continue doing what's not working. And you're feeling stale, then the kids are feeling it. So like your content is just getting thrown out there, and it's not really engaging them. So I applaud you for
Absolutely. You know what, honestly, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I think reflection is really, really important for all educators, to be honest with you. But it came down to necessity for me, kind of. I found myself last summer, kind of as we were getting ready to, get into a new school year, and we had just finished the spring, which I don't even know what the spring was, 2020. It was surviving, right?
that.
But I found myself like needing something else. I didn't know who I was as an educator anymore, because my like foundation was about building relationships. And I no longer had students face to face. I wasn't in the classroom. It wasn't happening the same way. And so I had an identity crisis almost about like, who was I as an educator? And I needed to figure that out before I started the fall. And creativity and new ideas and really striving to be innovative was a challenge that kept me going, to be honest with you. And so it was a moment of reflection, absolutely. But I think it was also very much so out of necessity to survive and thrive as an educator and find my passion again for why I was doing. I had lost my way a little bit as to why I was doing what I was doing in the classroom. And so, yeah.
But some people really, like you said, survival. Like, yeah, last spring was survival, and I think a little bit of this year was also survival, and it could still be for some people too. But I think, like you said, like you grabbed onto one of the tools that you knew was going to bring your teaching to that level and then your students to that level. So
yeah,
be like the message for some people out there as well. Like just grab a tool that you know that you feel comfortable with and that is really going to make you shine with your students.
Yeah.
And, you can embrace it instead of fearing it, So I think you hit it like right there. You knew that something was wrong or you knew you need to change and you just found Adobe Spark. And I keep, like I said, I applaud you for that. And like you said, Georgia Dean, I mean, I know she is big on Adobe, and that was a great influence that she had on you too. So
yeah,
all the other people that you had mentioned. So I think that's an example that people can look up to hopefully try to move on and finish this school year strong.
absolutely. I tell my students all the time, and it kind of goes into this a little bit, Adobe Spark. My students do not like to have freedom in expression. They're my like high level learners, and so a lot of them really like the structures. They like everything to be laid out for them exactly how they need something to be completed. How am I going to get the A, right? And that's been kind of cultivated in them for quite a few years because of the whole competition element. And so when I started to introduce creativity this year, it was a struggle at first. I'm not going to lie. And I had to tell my students and remind them over and over again, little risks. That's all you have to do. Take one little risk. Little risks, they equal little confidences, and eventually those little confidences become big confidences. And then you're just doing it. And I found that initially, because it was uncomfortable for me to see them struggle, I also really kind of figured out that I was over scaffolding, which I didn't really think could be a thing, but I found myself over scaffolding to the point where students, they were stifled, and they only can really express themselves in one way. So I had to peel back and I had to realize, okay, we're going to try this creativity thing, keep those little risks, and I'm finding as the year's gone on now, we have 10 weeks left or so, they're starting to get excited. And so, but you brought me on to talk about Adobe Spark. So let me jump in and kind of talk about why I find it beneficial in my own classroom. And at any point in time, feel free to, interrupt me and if you have any questions or whatever. Okay. So Adobe Spark. The cool thing about Adobe Spark, a lot of people, when they think of Adobe Spark, they think of it as like a digital, like flyer creation tool, right? That you make flyers, you make creative digital expressions, and that's totally one part of it. That's called Adobe Spark Post. But what a lot of individuals don't realize is Adobe Spark also has Adobe Spark Video and Adobe Spark Page. Now, the benefit of Adobe Spark and why I did choose to dive in is because Adobe for Education has allowed all K-12 educators and students to access Adobe Spark for free, 100% free. Yeah, so that was a beneficial piece for me because I felt like, as a site tech coach, if I was going to talk about a product that I was passionate about, and I was going to share that with my students and then ultimately my colleagues, I wanted it to be something that was free, that they were going to be able to use without any hindrances, or, it wouldn't be like you can use it up to a point and then it becomes, a paid kind of gig. So it is 100% free. Also, they offer a Adobe Spark Classroom in a sense, so your students can enroll in that, and as they do their creations, they don't even have to share it with you or submit. It just kind of, because they're enrolled, you can see their work and they sign in with a single sign-in option with their Google accounts, and it worked out. And so I started, and I originally started with them just doing, creative flyers, digital expressions. So whether that be a collage or, they're learning, or a photo essay where they included just images and captions, it just started with Adobe Spark Post. Since then, we kind of have evolved. I've needed like my students to create videos more and more, just because being virtual, when I need them to kind of express their learning or their understanding in a way that's not written, which is what I was striving for. Don't get me wrong, let me just make a disclaimer. My students still write essays, that still happens. But I did want them to express themselves visually. And I found that, video essays actually were a really cool thing that students were interested in. Now, when I first introduced Adobe Spark Video, my students all were kind of nervous about it, right? Because they were like, I don't have the video capabilities. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to do all these things. But the cool thing is that Adobe Spark Video actually has templates for you. So it's a matter of plug and play. So students don't really need to include those transitions, or they don't need to include the underscore of music or anything like that. It's all built in. And they have a variety of themes that they can choose from. And so it's a matter of just linking the Google Drive and just plugging in images, or using their free Adobe stock image uploads to kind of include that. And then it allows them to just tap a button and record a voiceover. Then once it's all done, they can publish that, and they have a seamless video. I've also used videos, Adobe Spark videos, for giving instructions and kind of guiding them through for their asynchronous work. If I needed them to understand a certain concept, I could talk them through it. And then because Adobe Spark has post, video, and page, they all integrate together seamlessly. So it's a matter of just taking the link and like plugging it in. So I've enjoyed that a lot. And so I think that students have like...
Is more of the graphics, like...
Yeah, so it would be like a Canva.
Graphics or something like Canva. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the link that you sent me, and I put that that presentation in the show notes. And the video is just a video they have templates in there that they can look for and browse through. So can they create their own from scratch as well?
Absolutely. So when I say template, it's more of like a shell that they fill in. So they have like different themes that the student can apply, but they can also create their own brand in Adobe Spark Post and kind of carry that over to Adobe Spark Video. That's a little bit more advanced. But they have a variety of different shells that the student can integrate their own like work into. So, I've had students right now, currently, I am doing an argumentation unit. And we are doing it's called the heart transplant project. And so students are given a hypothetical heart transplant candidate, and they have to essentially argue as to why their candidate deserves a heart that's up for grabs, right? So they need to go through, definitely the structure, the argumentative structure, very clear claim, and then their evidence and commentary to relate back, all that good stuff. So all those structures that you see in argumentative writing are there. But I'm allowing them to kind of express themselves and express their argument in a nonlinear way. So it's not just an essay like it's been in the past, or a debate, because we can't do that we're not face to face. And so students are creating, I've given them the option so they can create an Adobe Spark page, which is the equivalent to a website. Okay, they can create a website. Once again, very easy, plug and play, or they can use a Google site. I always want to offer them an opportunity to choose what's best for them. And then within that, they need to have a written, a verbal or auditory, and a video component, and a digital like flyer collage component that will then creatively express their evidence in a way that's not just here's an essay, right? And so the stuff that I'm getting, I use Adobe Spark Page as an educator for laying out the assignment. And I've used it for rubric kind of breakdowns and developments, any projects that they do, I'll give them kind of examples, models that they can use. And, I'm a big fan because Adobe makes it easy. It's a matter of, I don't need to be creative. because Adobe's done it for me. I just need to add the content, and then wow, look at what came out of that, right? And that, I think, is kind of one of the reasons I love Adobe Spark so much. So many people I talk to are like, I'm not creative. We limit ourselves by our own limitations a lot of the time. And so if we believe we're not creative, right, in the traditional sense, I don't paint or I don't draw or whatever, then we're going to live under that banner of I'm not creative. But I'm trying to show my students that creativity comes in a variety of forms. And Adobe for Education has made that really simple for me, because they don't have to do the graphic design, because it's pretty much built in there for them. All they have to do is make choices. And I think that right there is the catalyst, the fact that I have a template already made for me and I just have to plug and play, right? That's the catalyst that gets them going. Those are those little risks that they take that eventually they're like, oh my goodness, I can do that. And I went through the same journey. I never would have considered myself creative, like in the traditional sense. But I think that's a false kind of attribution of like meaning to the word creative, right? I think that creativity comes in many forms. I mean, what you're doing with this show, that's creative. And yeah, you're a co-creator of creativity with your guests, but it's still creative. The steps you have to take from beginning to end, right? Pre-production to post-production, like there's choices made. And I just think that, once students have the opportunity to flex those creative muscles just a little bit, I start to see them kind of take it a step further and then take it a step further. And then before you know it, they're using Adobe Spark for all sorts of things. So
are you finding them to, like, I guess in the beginning, because there's shells or templates already created, are you finding them to focus more on the content and get the content in there? Or are you finding them more browsing and taking the time to browse the shells or the templates rather than focusing on the content?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'm a firm believer that any new tool that I introduce to my students, I have to give them the space to play with it first, in a low risk setting, before I actually ask them to do anything academic. And so with Adobe Spark, we started with a who are you type of activity, so that they could get in there and get their hands dirty, and I did a live model of all three of the different features of Adobe Spark for my students, and then I let them play. And I found that kind of curbed that desire to spend 1,000 hours, looking for the perfect template. I gave them some tips and tricks on how to search for those templates, and kind of also gave them some models that they could look at. But I felt like, because I gave them that space to play first in a low risk way, they were then straight to it when it came to actually the academic part. And they're still required to do all of their research on a Google Doc, so that I can follow along with their thinking process. I could see where they're going, the direction they're heading, kind of monitor their steps that they're taking. But then the way in which they creatively express it is really up to them. And I'm not saying I just am like, go, like I'm not helping at all. Like we definitely debrief, and we meet in breakout rooms to talk about their plans and all that stuff. But if I think you're right, though, had I not allowed them that space to play, which I think a lot of educators do, is they kind of just jump straight into it, then I think the content that is being produced probably would be a little less rich than it is if they, had the space.
I find I do the same thing. Like in my room, I bring the kids in. If they don't know, just say Google Maps. Where I'm at a minute.
Yeah.
I'll let them play. I'll show them how to change the icon. I'll show them how to search and do different things. And then the next class period, we'll dive into the content. So I think it's important to allow the kids to explore a little bit and play with the tool, especially if you're going to be using it throughout a long period of time, so that they can feel comfortable with it and then be more productive with using the tool to create their content. So I think that's an important piece to note, because some people, like you said, they don't do that. They just
Yeah.
Here you go. You're going to use Google Maps, and you need to fix, do it all on your own. And
Right.
now,
Right.
and that's like, we don't like that as
No.
educators, so you can't expect the kids to know everything as well. So
Right.
that you give them the time to play, and if it's even for one class period, that should be good enough.
Yeah, and I also think that there's value in sticking with something. I think a lot of educators are quick to abandon a platform or a product if it just doesn't work the way that they wanted it to the first time. But I find that, it's never going to work exactly how you want it. We always apply expectations to experiences. And when those expectations aren't met, oftentimes we have those two choices. We can say, well, time for a new iteration, right? Try it again, or we get frustrated and discouraged and we just say, well, that didn't work, I'm moving on. And I feel like that's poor practice. I think as educators, we can't preach this idea of failing forward, right? Or being reflective and then just abandon ship when things get hard. And I think,
Example, right?
yeah, exactly. And I think that right there is an opportunity for us to thrive as educators and model that idea. Yeah, I also think that, the thing about creativity in the classroom and what Adobe Spark kind of provides for me and my students is I'm really pushing my students to, more inquiry-based approaches to education. And I feel like offering them an opportunity to use a platform like Adobe Spark, which is uncertain and which does require, them to make those critical kind of choices about design and expression and all those, that kind of helps along in that process. Again, I don't want to give them everything. I could give my students a template that they can follow, but then I'm getting one expression of the same idea right across my classes. And I'm not opposed to that. I think that there are times for that, right? Scaffolding that in the way that's like, here it is, this is what I want exactly. But there comes a point where we need to challenge our students just a little bit more to make those critical choices and think critically about like, what is the best way to express this and what works for me. And to be honest with you, some students are not into the digital design, and that's okay. They would rather write an essay. Fine,
And
that's great.
yeah, that's their
Yeah,
choice.
exactly. The point is the choice, offering that choice, and that alternative assessment caters to those individual students that maybe don't thrive in that traditional approach.
And I like that, so like you said before, like you give, if you're making a template, you're getting the same format,
Yep.
but just a different content version of it. So it's nice that you realize, like, okay, we can use Adobe Spark, let the kids roll with it, and then see what they come up with. Because sometimes they surprise you. They make
Always.
better content than you think.
Yeah, always.
you know, I find that to be, that's the way I learn from them as well. Like look, we all want things to go perfect, but
Yeah.
in the classroom, that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
So
no.
you give them choice. Like if you say, hey, you could do this, you could do that, you'd be surprised what they create. And sometimes, like even in middle school, I'm like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. Good job.
Yeah,
Like, because
right.
sometimes we think like sometimes, and I'm talking about myself,
Absolutely.
like I'm like one way sometimes, like it's just tunnel
All
vision.
this. Absolutely.
And this is the way I create things, and I do it this way. But somebody may be thinking something different, so that's why we
Exactly.
offer choice. And I'm glad to know that Adobe Spark offers all of these different choices for the kids, because I might end up trying. I didn't know it was free for
Yeah.
educators and students, so I might end up trying this with middle school students.
Oh, yeah.
Push this out to like the English teachers to see if they would even consider using this with their kids.
Yeah.
I think it's a great choice. It offers a lot. I like that you have the page, the post, and the video all within your account, I guess.
Yep.
And can you do a single sign-on to Google?
Yeah. So it has a single sign-on for Google. which is great because, right, you don't have to have students be making and then forgetting their account logins. So it is single sign-on. I just had to have my district IT, make sure that it was whitelisted and turned on. And yeah, and I'm going to be honest with you, I still always offer opportunity for other options, right?
Yeah.
So I'm never going to say you have to use Adobe Spark, because that's not the way that the world works, So I still have students design on Google Slides. Fine. I still have students design on Canva. Great. With this most recent assignment that they're going to be turning in, this heart transplant project, like I said, it's a Spark page or a Google site. And I found a lot of students have gravitated towards Spark as they've been, playing with it, because, like I said, it makes it so simple. It's a matter of literally you have to have the content, but once you have the content, there are so many options. It offers suggestions, right? So say you choose an Adobe Spark post, I choose this font choice, and I'm finding that the colors or the way that the font is highlighted isn't working. There's a button that you push and it'll just kind of give you suggestions. It'll cycle through, it'll take your words and it'll just cycle through all of these options until you find one that you like, and I think that's great. It offers animation, right? So if you want to animate the images or you want to animate the words, I had my students do the One Word 2021 at the beginning of this year, where they had to choose a word that was kind of going to guide them. And I found that they ran with it. And the stuff that they presented or created was just out of control awesome. They took risks. Were all of them amazing? No. But I'm not always amazing all the time either. But you know what? The fact that they tried was enough for me.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly and truly, I know last year, we were using, and last year we were using WeVideo in my school.
Uh-huh.
This year the teachers are using it, not so much the kids, but last year the kids were using it. And some of the videos that they created was oh my gosh, it was so amazing. So I think too, they're looking for something different to express what they know, because they don't want to, like you said, some kids want to write the essay, but some kids are better in front of the video, or they bring in different objects to express their learning or meaning for a vocabulary word or whatever. And the things that they create, it's just amazing. I really believe, whatever tool you decide to use really doesn't matter. It's just giving them the choice. You can
Absolutely
make a video, you can narrate, you can make a social media post, whatever, but just make sure your message and your content's clear.
Absolutely.
And I'm amazed every year. I'm totally amazed with what the kids create, and it blows my mind, because back when, I don't know about you, but back when I was in school, we didn't have the choice. So I'm always writing stuff out, and if I had the choice to do the writing piece or a video, of course I would do a video.
Right. Right.
But it's just, with these kids today, they have the opportunity to express themselves doing, making videos in Adobe Spark or
any other platform, really,
or whatever, WeVideo or Screencast. It doesn't matter what tool it is, just give them the choice,
Exactly.
So I'm definitely going to dabble a little bit in here. I know I did before, because I spoke with Georgia a few months back, and after she got me all psyched up, I went in and I started creating posts, Adobe posts.
Yeah.
And I did. I was creating, and then I went back into Canva because I got excited about some of the new features that were in Canva.
They're great.
I really want to get back into this because of the free component for schools and education. So I'm going to definitely try it and see what I can, hopefully I can convince some of the teachers at my school to give it a try too. So
absolutely. And at any point in time, all you have to do is say, try, right? Yeah. And to be honest with you, you don't like it, move on. At least you tried though, and it gave you an opportunity. And I tell my students the same thing, and I find that they are the really cool thing about Adobe Spark Post, not video yet or page, but is they have an app for both Android and iOS. And for example, on our 3CC's Instagram yesterday, I decided to do a this or that. kind of experience, where I had, our followers rather choose between, like, say, pizza or tacos, which one, right? And then you put the little poll question, just something for a little bit of engagement. And I did all of those posts on my phone because you can set them up to be an Instagram story size. All of those features are already there. And I was just in bed the other night, just playing with it, right? And so to have that access on their phones, which is what they have, because we're talking about equity as well, right? If they're not using the school internet, maybe they don't have the internet at home, but most of them have data, right, on their phones. And so it does offer that opportunity as well, which I love, because I think it allows them to create on the go, which is always beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point to bring up as well. So what's the website that people can go to sign up for free education?
So if you go to, let's see, Spark, I know that, like, Spark is spark.adobe.com, and I don't have, like, the education website, like, that can help you with, like, the Spark Classroom. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can get that for you. But honestly, if you sign up with go to spark.adobe.com and sign up with your Google account, your school account. If you have a Google school account, it automatically notes that you're in education, and you can create that way.
Okay, so I'm going to put spark.adobe.com in the comments so that people can go there and sign up.
Yeah, and I'll find the blog post as well. Adobe for Education has a Spark blog, and so they give you all of the new insights and details that are integrated, and they're constantly going through new iterations. And then the other reason I really was drawn to Adobe for Education is they're available. Anytime I have a question or anything, I can go on Twitter and tweet them, and within an hour I get a response from them. And I think that that's really cool. They celebrate their users, and so if you highlight them and tag them on Twitter, they usually retweet or at least comment on what you're doing. And I just really love it. And like I said, Education Exchange, which is edx.adobe.com. The Education Exchange is invaluable. I mean, there's so many lesson plans that you can pull from, courses that you can take. Adobe Education Exchange, edx.adobe.com, Abid. So there's so many different aspects. You can become an Adobe Creative Educator. So the resource that you plugged at the beginning, I put a link there that can get you become an Adobe Creative Educator. They'll send you a shirt that says "I am a creative educator," and a sticker and stuff, and then you become a part of a really cool community.
So that link that you sent me through Twitter.
Yes.
What is that called? Is that called?
So the link. This is this page. This is a page. So this is an Adobe Spark page that I created. So normally I did a panel at Spring Q with Paper, hosted by Paper, and I highlighted Adobe Spark. And so I created that page, which is like the equivalent of creating a Google slide.
A Google
if I was going to do it's a Google site, but it's a website. But the way in which I used it was like if I was going to be using a Google slide deck to give a presentation. And so I included on that page a bunch of resources, my own creations, to kind of show like what I've done in the classroom, what I've done personally, all with post, with video, and with page. What kind of kicked off my journey was I did a 100 Days of Joy project, where I took 100 days and I created a Adobe Spark page. And every single day for 100 days, I kind of skipped a few in the middle because I got lazy. But for the most part, every single day for 100 days, I noted one minute, small piece of joy in every single day, because there wasn't a lot of joy that existed in my life at that point when we were doing, pandemic teaching. So that's on there, my 100 Days of Joy project. And honestly, it's called a glide show, and it's just a plug and play. Again, I put like joy or happy, and I chose from their free pictures, and then you just kind of glide through it. And
this is awesome. I really like this. Now, so this is another site, right?
Yes. So that's another page. Yeah. Adobe Spark page. Here's for the edX exchange. I put it in the private chat if you wanted to share that out. Yeah, so my 100 Days of Joy project was just another Adobe Spark page, which is the similar equivalent to a website. And it's just plug and play. And I chose pictures and images. It's called a glide show. And then I just added every single day one piece of joy. It was a personal project.
Yeah, no, I think this is inspirational.
Well, thank you.
Wow. I gotta check this out. I gotta get back into this and see. Maybe this
see
is
what I mean?
Do,
like, yeah, you know, and when you do, I hope that you should. Yes, perfect. Like a reflective piece. And honestly, when you do, I hope you'll share it with me so that I can take a look and celebrate you. Because
I think
that's it.
Like that made me happy that you did that, you know, because I just think that, yeah, I'm so thankful that you shared that.
You're welcome. Awesome. It got me. I was bogged down for a while,
and are so negative, and
yeah,
like this is something that you can take something simple and then put it out there and celebrate it. It doesn't have to be a major thing, you know. So, and it's personal.
It is, and it very much is. And like I said, there was some time there where I didn't post for like 30 days of the 100, and you know, I just kept beating myself up over it. And then I was like, you know what, just start again. My friend Mel, who's actually in the chat, she would constantly remind me, hey, how's that 100 days project going? You know, and so finally got it back going and then rounded it out. And eventually one day I think I'll do another one. But I needed that. In that moment, I needed to be reminded that every single day, despite challenges, despite discouragement, despite feeling undervalued, there's always moments of joy for us to grab onto.
And you know what? That's, you know, to sidetrack it, it's like a journal, right? So it could be kind of like a diary or a journal as well. Yep. So you actually, you know, showcased your own personal journey using Adobe Page, right? And you know, and it actually is inspirational. I'm definitely going to check this out.
Yeah, I also use it as a personal. Yeah, I also use it as a professional portfolio. So anytime I do an appearance or I create something, I have a Adobe Spark page that I get on and I add that to it just so that I have it in one space. And sometimes it'll be a reflective little short blog post.
Yeah, and it looks professional. Like it doesn't
I agree.
Look you did it. It looks like a professional person that you hired.
And I'm not a professional at all. So it made it easy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm definitely gonna, when I get back to school, I'm not doing over spring break.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna look into it. And I like to be able to expose the teachers at my school with the tool, and hopefully they'll embrace it too. Or at least if I can get one or two people to use it, it's a success, you know?
Absolutely. So, yeah. Well, it's been awesome chatting. Yeah.
Great. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on and, you know, sharing, and, you know, we have to support each other and help each other. So I'm thankful that, you know, you took the time to be on. So I appreciate it.
No, I'm grateful you gave me a space. So I appreciate it very much. And I look forward to the next time we chat.
Yeah, definitely. So that concludes our show for tonight. What I'm going to do really quick is share my screen. And so if you'd like to check out my website, you can go to thesuitetalk.com. That's the SUITE talk.com. And today's episode will be here on the homepage. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. The Sweet Talk is on Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music as well. You can also subscribe to the newsletter, and I will email you all of the links about today's show. You can also become a sponsor and support my mission if you like. You can click on Become a Sponsor, fill out the sponsor form, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you'd like to be a guest on the show and pay it forward, you can fill out the guest inquiry form. And right now, I am scheduling for August. So if you like to be on, it'll be most likely in the fall. If you'd like to check out any of the past episodes, you can click on the episode page, and all of the past episodes with the show notes will be listed here. It's going to take a little bit to load, but it'll eventually load. Jamboard, if you need some Jamboard inspiration, check out my Jamboard page as well. I have a presentation here that I updated, and you can also be part of the Pay It Forward to Jamboard for teachers by teachers. If you want to pay it forward, you can share your idea with me here, and I will add your idea to the presentation. And one more thing is I have an idea board for Jamboard. And this is something that I came up with a while ago, that you can look at for ideas. Anything in here is, you're welcome to check out. It's basically how you can use Jamboard in the classroom, and just gives you different ideas on how you can incorporate it with collaboration and creativity. So that's basically it. And back to my friend. So I really appreciate you being on.
Yeah.
And until next time, my friend, I appreciate it. Have a great
Absolutely.
evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.